For the longest time, us Legend of Zelda fans wanted one thing and one thing only. That is to see the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD make its way over to newer systems. Now, honestly, this would have been a fantastic idea from Nintendo, and ever since the Nintendo Switch launch, that was the constant. Hey, Nintendo Direct, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess is coming. But now that we're in 2026 and it's been 10 years since Twilight Princess HD, there's definitely been a lot. So, we just got some brand new information that apparently The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is going to be getting reborn. Now, what exactly does this all mean? Let's get straight into it. Now take this information if you will. It comes from a 50-50 source, Nash Weedle. Sometimes he gets things right, and sometimes he completely misses the mark. But honestly, this does make sense in some ways. Just think about why Nintendo didn't re-release the HD version of these games. Well, I can think of a number of different reasons. One of them is because they've been working on a remake this entire time for both of these games. Maybe they were running concurrently with each other. So one of them was developing Twilight Princess, the other one was developing Wind Waker, and they're going to release them simultaneously to each other. Just think about it. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a technical marvel. So with Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, they can really bump up the juice, the visuals, the art style, and some of these games, because of technology issues, they didn't implement everything that they necessarily wanted to implement in the base games. So potentially this is what they've been waiting for all along. If you were to release the HD version of both of these games, don't you think that, hey, I already have the HD version, why am I going to be buying it reborn? Like, why is there a point of getting it reborn? But if they were never going to re-release Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, well then the reborn version would be your go-to. Even if you play the GameCube version, sure, your Nintendo fans that originally grew up with those would be like, yeah, this is the best game, it's completely fine on the GameCube application. But this would be considered a system seller if it was reborn and there wasn't already an HD version. Because you don't really see Nintendo doing a port of an HD version and then also having it on a GameCube application and then reborning it afterwards. So if they all had this plan from the get-go, potentially this is what's going on here. It says specifically Twilight Princess HD, and Wind Waker seems to be left in limbo. Now, I don't necessarily think that this is the case. Like I said, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD were most likely getting worked on concurrently, so beside each other, if this is actually true. And honestly, if this were to be true, this would be really fantastic. We also know that most likely Nintendo is going to be doing The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. So, Majora's Mask Reborn would definitely be really interesting for those Zelda fans. Because if you look at Ocarina of Time, that game obviously looks like a technical marvel, a gem, a game that you really want to pick up. That is what you consider a system seller right there. Even if it is a reborn version of an older game, it still looks absolutely amazing. Also, if you take a look at it, all of these games got sort of HD versions. Not necessarily a remaster or remake or nothing really, it's just an HD version. And maybe you can consider it a remaster for the case of Wind Waker HD, where you had the quick sale and you had a couple of things changed with the Triforce pieces. Besides that, the game was pretty much the same. And this all started off with Ocarina of Time, released in 2011, Majora's Mask, released in 2015, Wind Waker, released in 2013, and also Twilight Princess in 2016. Don't you think that that's exactly what Nintendo is doing? If you're gonna make a game reborn, maybe this is just to test the waters on what the ability of the Nintendo Switch 2 could do, and then you're gonna be like, yep, we're gonna be making a brand new game, making a remade version of your fan favorite game. Maybe this is exactly why we haven't seen these games yet. Also, if you really take a look at it, what exactly could this game have different than the original? Well, so far, it's probably just going to be up to the visuals. We don't necessarily know what Twilight Princess is going to be. It seems like we are going to be getting more information about this game in July, but until then, let's just make an assumption that we are going to be seeing cut content that wasn't able to be brought to the original games due to hardware limitations. So, in Ocarina of Time, you're going to be getting the Light Temple, potentially a more substantial open world, open environment, not open world fully, just the environment where Hyrule Field was, and then you'll also be getting like piano actually coursed music instead of just what they used back then. Overall, it's definitely going to be really interesting and exciting. So yeah, if this were going to happen, I definitely think it is a big possibility. The Nintendo Switch 2 is more than powerful enough, and so far Nintendo has been really wanting to show us the power of the Switch 2. Plus, this could be that sort of tie-in game for the next 3D Legend of Zelda game. Apparently, this could be happening in 2028 or even 2029. Let's just assume that the next Legend of Zelda game is going to be 2033, because look what's going on with Mario. A Mario game taking longer to develop than a Zelda game. What is going on here? This Mario game must be bigger than we've ever seen before. So let's just assume that the next Legend of Zelda game is going to be taking 10 years to develop, because instead of pretty much just copying over the same engines and assets as Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, they would be making something a whole completely brand new. It seems like this game, the next Legend of Zelda game, is going to be a timeline reference, so it's probably going to be a distort in the timeline, space-time continuum, and all of that stuff. So yeah, this sort of Reborn Zelda games could be that tie-in feature for the next. If they really wanted to, they already have all the assets for Majora's Mask, and if they wanted to do Twilight Princess, some of the assets would be there to carry over to potentially Wind Waker. But those two are definitely really interesting. I honestly think that this is exactly what Nintendo is doing. They brought over Wind Waker because they were like, you know what, we're going to be making these games Reborn, but you're not going to be seeing Wind Waker Reborn until 2030 at least. So it's definitely really interesting. I guess now it's the only thing to say, grab out your Wii U and start playing. Now, I honestly think that we still have a chance of getting the HD versions of these games, but remind you, if the HD versions come out, there's no way in heck they are going to be reborning these games within the next 10 years. It's probably going to be way longer than that if they bring out these HD versions. Just look what they did with the Wii U. The original Twilight Princess came out on the GameCube in 2006, then got re-released on the Wii U 10 years later. So potentially this is what's going to be happening, and if they're going to do it, they're going to re-release these games once again, let's just say 2026. Well, then the next time you're going to be seeing Wind Waker and Twilight Princess is probably going to be 20 years if you're going to reborn these games. But overall, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that we are going to be getting a reborn version of Twilight Princess and potentially Wind Waker, Majora's Mask, whatever the case may be? Or do you think this is all a hoax? We're still getting the HD versions and everything associated with that. Overall, I think that this is some pretty fantastic news. I would honestly love to see Twilight Princess and Wind Waker getting reborn. But imagine that. What if it was just the HD version of Wind Waker and they're just going to be doing Twilight Princess or something like that? Who knows? Definitely really interesting. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here all the way to the end of the video. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed, consider hit that like button. Maybe subscribing if you're new. We do a bunch of different Nintendo content on this channel. Anyways, thank you so much. See you in the next one.